Code Keepers, class is in session.
Black diamond, 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 black diamond.
Grandpa Crump. Yee.
All right, Doc. Things modern Black women should be doing. Look, we already taken roll. We did that electronically. So everyone is in their spaces with bright, shiny faces because of that Vaseline. So, and this is the way we start a new learning day. Let's start it. Hey, things modern Black women should be doing.
All right. So, okay, I will say I do not like motivational speakers. So this will not be a motivational speaker gig. Instead, I will just highlight what I encourage as Black women for us to, what it means to support each other. And I always say that for the most part, people only support Black women when we're doing things for them. Unfortunately, that includes Black women. Most Black women only support other Black women who are not family members when it benefits them. And you'll see that a lot when it comes to Black women interacting in a space and they all of a sudden turn it into a networking place for professional benefit. So this is why I want Black women to distinguish acquaintances, co-workers, colleagues, and potential collaborators from actual friendships and families. So that's one big thing, since I do specialize in mental health, particularly Black mental health. And this September is the month where we address suicide awareness. Those of us who address suicide awareness every day, I've lost family and friend to suicide, unfortunately, in the last 2-3 years. So that includes when talking about Black women. We have to realize that mental health is not only talking about oppression, because a lot of times when we talk like Black health in general, people say, well, the cause of Black health is because of racial trauma. We want to understand health problems and suicide, mental illness, physical illnesses have existed since the origins of humans, okay? So when we're talking about what Black women need, we want Black women to have spaces where we can talk about concerns, struggles, family issues, friendship issues, health problems, without people always responding by saying, well, you're just oppressed. Step one, we do not just need oppression talks, okay? We actually need solutions-based talks. So I specialize in community and patient advocacy. I teach health courses. I teach and train medical and health students and professionals. I also address community patient advocacy. I myself am the patient, and I also show other people how to file complaints. So what does it mean when we try to be a conscious, knowledgeable patient? We come in there, instead of being ready to argue, we actually come in there having read some materials, not conspiracy theories, but actually reading materials. Okay, that's a very huge difference, especially with the prevalence of the internet. So I want Black women to understand, yes, we do go to the doctors more than Black men go to the doctors. And that's not a bad thing. That does not mean we are anti our origins. We're still Africans. We're still Black folks. We still recognize if you're spiritual, if you're religious, you're not abandoning that by going to the doctor, but you still want to go to the doctor. So that's one recommendation when I talk about do not try to be strong. Remember that trying to be strong, you will always end up abandoned and isolated, because your strength is to support other people and not yourself. And other people love to be on our backs at work, at school, in your family, everywhere you go, people will say, support Black women, but they only support you when you express their viewpoint. And I'm saying this as a Black woman, and the work I do is counter to a lot of very common viewpoints that people think Black folks should have, right? They're like, how dare you have those viewpoints? We didn't give you permission to have those viewpoints as a Black woman. So you just have to remember, having the viewpoints you have, having the approach to life that you have, means that you're going to have to understand that some people will abandon you because you're countering the avenue that they told you to drive on. And that's fine as well, okay? Also read more, reading more, I always say that. So yes, some scholars like Du Bois did not highlight the importance of Black folks to read more, although he did write a lot. Du Bois wrote a whole lot, including the Brownies book, which was a book for children. He did not pressure reading a lot. But if you look at people like John Henrik Clarke and E. Franklin Frazier, the highlights of the importance of reading are essential for our people. Knowledge spread through vocal knowledge, artistic knowledge, also reading knowledge. And this is important for Black women because when we're talking about the crucial role that we play in our culture, in our communities, in our families, a lot of times when I interact with Black women, and this includes some Black women who are educators, they don't really read. So what they'll do is they'll demand that schools provide access to readings. But then when I say, okay, sister, thank you for saying that, let me give you some readings, they'll say, well, I don't really read. So this is why I encourage Black women to remember, you can't be expressive in terms of the importance of knowledge and wanting schools to have it, in terms of wanting your family to have it. You can't be like a health advocate, because this happens among health professionals as well. A lot of health professionals, after they get out of school and training, they don't read anything. They might read a handout. And I tell people, you're the health professional. You can't expect people to read what you give them if you yourself do not keep up with health research. Because health research is published daily, and not just from the government, but actually researchers who do this data, right? So this is why I encourage Black women to read more. There's tons of readings, of course, so it doesn't mean you're going to read everything. And you can buy books and stuff and not feel like you have to open every book. Like there's some times when we buy a book and years from now, we're like, I did not open that book like I thought I did, okay? That happens with Black elders too. They'll tell you they've had this book in their collection and they just ran out of time. Now they're going to open it up, see some dead moths in it, whatever, but they're at least going to acknowledge that we can always read. So the importance of reading is very important for Black women as well. Something else I want to highlight with Black women is, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, we're not the cookers, the cleaners, and the note takers. And I'm going to say this, because those of us who have been part of different organizations and collectives for the advancement of Black folks, we are oftentimes put in the woman category. We're expected to be silent instead of outspoken. We're expected to not be leaders. We're expected to not really be the knowledge spreaders, not the decision makers, not the challengers and debaters. But guess what we're expected to do? We're expected to be the note takers, basically the administrative assistants. This also happens. They expect us to hear a wonderful idea that we like, and now we're going to be the one perhaps writing a book about it. Okay? Then they'll say, well, go ahead and go make us some food or something and all types of stuff. And this has literally been the history of Black collectives. And it still exists in religious collectives as well, radical groups, all types of places. There are some Black women historically and currently have challenged that and have been celebrated for their accomplishments, but they always have to go, and I'm gonna say they, including we always have to go the extra mile to prove ourselves, because people will try to dismiss us as just emotional. First of all humans are emotional. All humans are emotional. I don't know why people pretend that somehow there's a emotional hormone out there. That's just not how this happens. Okay. There's also this notion that women are the most talkative. As a sociologist and a criminologist, we actually do research. We find that men are also quite talkative. It's just finding different ways to express it. So might not talk in the same space, but oftentimes we'll have spaces where they only expect men to talk. Therefore, men are quite talkative because this is the men space to talk. Men also take up physical space because men are expected in certain cultures around the world, not all, but certain cultures, to sit with their legs open or their arms out. So I always tell my students, also when I used to tutor Black men football players, I used to explain to them, what are some things that you do? We talk about that situational gender. It's okay for you to tap that butt when you're on the football field, but not when you're out going to lunch. Similar happens when talking about the way people sit. There's certain things that people assume are appropriate based on people's gender. So as Black women, our gender identity and what people consider in terms of our womanhood is even more complex because it interlocks with our Blackness. And one of the first publications addressing this is Dr. Anna Julia Cooper, when she wrote A Voice from the South. And she was a sociologist, and her A Voice from the South was published prior to Dr. Du Bois's publication, but it's not as well known, but you can find the entire book online. I also share it on the shared Google Drive folder. But these are just examples of what it means to not feel like we have to be stuck in this space. And for people to tell us that we have to prove ourselves as Black women by being complacent and obedient. The other side of that, though, is that when people think that our presence means that we're now going to be bickering, fighting, fussing. And a lot of times they try to blame now like reality TV shows. But it comes from a number of things. We can look at it in terms of, we're looking at our Black culture, the definition of Black family. You can think of it in terms of even prior to transatlantic slavery, but particularly during transatlantic slavery, the separation of African families. Then if you look at it during the Industrial Revolution, what it means when Black men and Black women had to leave their families and go into this industrial trade. And then Black women always had to work. So when we talk about women's suffrage, that's white women's suffrage. It was white women, particularly middle-class white women, demanding to work, whereas Black women always worked. Indigenous women worked. Poor working class white women worked. Asian women worked all the time. So when we're looking at the Black family, we also want to understand it historically. What does it mean when we have this role that we're assumed to take? And so the Industrial Revolution is an example of that there. And so this is just where we have to understand it historically, that we're oftentimes assumed to be stern. And sometimes people will cite their grandmom or their mom. And also sometimes people don't understand domestic violence, because domestic violence also includes culturally, where you're talking about forms of corporal punishment or forms of just yelling at each other. And you think that that's the Black family where you don't have conversations, everyone's yelling, eventually hitting, and that kind of thing. So we just want people to understand, I want Black women particularly to understand, there are some things that we're taught about Black womanhood, including by Black women elders, that are not really a full span of Black womanhood. We don't have to be all the time quiet. And we also don't have to be the one ruffling feathers either. Those are two extremes. Instead, we can actually get to know our own personality type. Guess what? We also have personalities, right? Okay. Some of us are smart mouths. I'm the first day of Leo, so I'm a smart mouth too, right? So those are what some of the things I do want to highlight for Black women. Understanding the span of us, not becoming the administrative assistant for collectives. There are a lot of religious groups, it'd be church, mosques, synagogues, all types, that they really rely on Black women to be the majority of the audience a lot of times, even if Black men are the majority of the leaders. You can look at particular groups where they'll put handsome, especially handsome Black men on the streets, because they know that will bring in Black women, especially a particular age group of Black women. And there are quite a few Black radical groups where they want Black women to only be really the note takers. So this is where I tell Black women that this is where you just have to ask yourself, what do you want to accomplish for our people? But also in accomplishing things for our people, it cannot be minimizing yourself. I always tell Black folks, one of my pet peeves is that people keep yelling, be humble, be modest. I keep telling Black folks, why do y'all keep preaching about modesty and humility? It just does not make sense. The majority of Black trailblazers over the centuries, particularly regarding race and thousands of years of racially Black Africans, have been people who were considered arrogant. They were considered aggressive. Some of them considered them egotistical. Some of them considered a-holes, annoying. People like Du Bois, Marcus Garvey. A whole lot of people did not like their personality type. Some of their family members did not like them. So I always tell Black folks, why do you always tell people to be humble, have humility? Why do you call people out for their ego? Why do you feel like you have to put people in their place? Maybe you need to get to their level, or maybe just have to have a real conversation and explain what the concern is instead of saying things like humble, humility. People in general tend to use that jargon, but especially I hear Black folks using that jargon to each other. And they act like they just became peacefully successful. I'm like, no, you built confidence in your knowledge and you chose different spaces to express that confidence, whether it was on the basketball court, whether it was when you're playing your guitar in that concert, whether it was when you were a teacher, wherever you were, you expressed that confidence. And nobody in that audience would have told you to be humble. And you would have just been like, yeah, I'm gonna be humble. So this is why I want Black women to understand. Do not waste time on the whole humility, humble thing. Do not waste time being people's note taker. There's all different things that I want Black women to expand beyond that. And I'll stop there.
Wow. Black women should not be humble. Wow. Okay. Support each other. They need to read. We're bigger than secretaries, cooks, cleaners. Understand?
Yeah, it's one thing when that's a job, but it's another thing if you're joining all these collectives and they keep seeing you as the one who's going to bring in the chicken wings every time. Then you have to ask yourself, why am I reduced to that? Because, you could have all these accomplishments in your life and they've made you the chicken wing person. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Black women, tap in. Let us know what you think. If you agree with Doc, she just gave a nice amount of things to consider. So learn and earn or disagree. Tap in with your Twitter fingers, your YouTube fingers, your Facebook fingers. Let us know what you think. This has been another episode of Doc's Class. See you next time.